You walk past the night sky. Not the real one, the painted one. Thick with stars, heavy with blue. Below it, a café spills golden light onto the street. Chairs, tables, a waiter in white. People sit, drink, chat. It feels like nothing more than a peaceful night in Arles. But look closer. There's one figure standing, almost glowing. Others, 12 of them, are scattered, distracted, mid-conversation. One leans, one turns away. None are looking at him. The light isn't just warm, it's holy. And suddenly this isn't just a cafe scene, it's a table, a moment, a ritual, a last supper. But this one's different. No halos, no sacred bread, just gaslight and silence. And you start to wonder, was this intentional? Did Van Gogh mean for you to see it? Or are you seeing something he never put there? But then you remember, over 800 letters. His thoughts, his struggles, his faith, his obsession with meaning, with light, with the unseen. And before you can step back, before you can look away, the painting has already pulled you in. So what was he really trying to say? That question leads us on to one of the most debated corners of Van Gogh's legacy: symbolism. Ask 5 art historians what symbolism art even is, and you'll get 6 different answers, none of them quite agreeing with the others. That's because symbolism isn't easy to pin down. It doesn't follow rules. It slips through definitions like smoke. And yet, understanding what it meant to Vincent is key if we want to see how he painted, why he painted, and what message he hoped would survive long after he was gone. Van Gogh worked in the 1880s when symbolism with a capital S was still in its infancy. Not to be confused with the lowercase symbolism your high school English teacher kept going on about. This was a full-blown movement, one that blurred the lines between the seen and the felt, between the literal and the spiritual. Its earliest roots go back to Eugène Delacroix, the godfather of French Romanticism. He once said that a painting can move you before you even know what it's showing. That just the arrangement of colours and forms, the music of the painting, as he called it, can hit you like a gut punch. Before you're even close enough to recognise a face or a figure, something grabs you. Something beyond the visible. Or in the words of the band Boston, it's more than a feeling. That same idea later inspired Charles Baudelaire, often considered the father of symbolist movement. Van Gogh, however, wasn't exactly a fan, and we'll get into why when we look at his letters. But like it or not, Baudelaire introduced something critical to the symbolist mindset, a concept called correspondences. It's simple on the surface, a kind of poetic association between things, but at its core, it's a deep, intuitive way of seeing the world. It means layers, it means metaphors stacked on metaphors. It means a painting isn't just a painting, it's a puzzle, a coded message, waiting for the right eyes to see it. Art historian Henry Dorer once said that what made symbolism art special wasn't just that it used metaphor. That's common in all mature art. What mattered was the richness of those metaphors, their complexity, their ability to spark a whole network of emotions and spiritual connections inside the viewer. That's what symbolism demands, not just attention, but imagination. A painting that doesn't tell you what it means, but dares you to figure it out. And guess what? That kind of thinking wasn't foreign to Van Gogh. In fact, he grew up with it. In the deeply religious Dutch culture he was raised in, there was a tradition called beschriften poëzie, picture poems. In many books of the time, a theologian would pair an image with a poetic caption. The goal was to fuse words with visuals in a way that hit the soul from 2 directions at once. A poem became a picture became a poem, and together they create something that can't be captured in words alone. or images alone. That's pure symbolism. In 1990, Japanese scholar Tsukasa Kodera dug into the idea in a groundbreaking study. He argued that Van Gogh's early exposure to this practice wasn't just incidental, it shaped how he saw the world, how he painted it. Long before he ever picked up a brush, Vincent was already trying to merge the visual with the spiritual, and when he eventually did start painting, it was only natural that he brought that same instinct with him. So no, Van Gogh didn't wave the flag and declare himself a symbolist. He didn't need to. His work says it for him. He didn't just want you to see his paintings, he wanted you to feel them, to decode them, to let them reach past your eyes and pull at something deeper. And Café Terence at Night wasn't just a scene, it was a message. And if you really want to understand what that message meant, to him, to his art, you have to step deeper into his world. You start with Vincent's letters. If you want to grasp the depth of Vincent's symbolic style, you can't skip the summer of 1888. That was the season when everything came to a boil. His obsession with colour, his longing for spiritual rebirth, and his dream of building a new artistic brotherhood in the south of France. A sort of Southern Renaissance, he called it. He wasn't working alone. Vincent was feeding off the energy of a small circle. His brother Theo, of course, but also Paul Gauguin, Émile Bernard, and others. And those letters he sent to Bernard were gold. No art critic, no biographer, no gallery guide can get you closer to Vincent's mind than those handwritten pages. He saw Bernard as a student, almost like a younger version of himself, and that made him drop all filters. He was raw, he was honest, he spilled everything. Around that time, Bernard had started reading the Bible again, digging into its symbolism and spiritual undertones. Vincent, the former preacher who had failed so hard in the church world, didn't mock him. Quite the opposite. He lit up. In one of his most powerful letters, he wrote back, "An artist greater than all artists, disdaining marble and clay and paint, working in living flesh. He made living men, immortals." That's serious, you know, especially because it's the truth. He was talking about Jesus Christ, not the version boxed in by church pews and rituals, but the one Vincent still clung to, the raw, radical creator who shaped souls, not statues. Vincent had given up on organised religion, but not on meaning, not on the divine. And in that summer, with the heat rising in Arles, that meaning began pouring through his brush. The conversations with Bernard didn't just stay on the page, they exploded onto the canvas. Inspired by their spiritual back and forth, Vincent turned back to a familiar image, The Sower by Jean-François Millet. He studied it before, even copied it, but now he saw it differently. He wrote, "Can we now paint the sower with colour, with simultaneous contrast between yellow and purple, for example, like Delacroix's Apollo ceiling? Yes or no?" Yes, definitely. That wasn't just a technical experiment, it was a manifesto. Vincent was unleashing himself from rules, from expectation, from realism. He wasn't just painting a farmer, he was painting an idea, a force. He was starting to speak a new language, one built entirely out of colour and feeling. And once the floodgates opened, he didn't hold back. A few months later, he looked at his own work and saw the connection clearly. The Sower was just the beginning. He wrote, "The Sower will still be the first attempt in the genre. The Night Café is a continuation of the Sower, as is the head of the old peasant and of the poet." Notice what he's saying, not, "This is a good painting," not, "Look at my technique." He's saying, "I'm creating something new, a symbolic genre fueled by feeling and faith and colour and pain." What's wild is that this quote came just after he finished the night cafe and just before he walked out into the warm, dark air of the Palace de Forum and began Café Terence at night. He didn't stop to reflect. He painted like a man possessed. Because he was. Possessed by light, possessed by colour, possessed by a message that burned too hot to hold inside. And once you start reading these letters, once you see how his thoughts, his symbols, his brush all move in the same fevered rhythm, you start to realise Vincent wasn't just making art, he was preaching in paint, and every canvas was a gospel, which makes us all wonder if Van Gogh was a symbolist in true form. The answer is that Van Gogh never officially joined the symbolist movement. He didn't write a manifesto or align himself with the crowd waving that flag, but when you follow the symbols hidden in his works, when you listen to what he's saying to friends like Bernard and Theo, it becomes clear. Van Gogh was chasing the very thing symbolism stood for, not just showing the world, but revealing something within it. Take Rembrandt's Slaughtered Ox, for example. Bernard and Baudelaire saw a butchered animal. Van Gogh saw a layered message. Christ's sacrifice, the patience of St. Luke, the struggle of the painter, and even the quiet suffering of the soul. He saw art as a vessel, a way to carry meaning across time. He didn't just want to paint beauty, he wanted to paint the truth. He praised Bernard's cloisonist brothel scene, not just for its style, but for the way it used composition with those cross-shaped window panes to quietly carry something spiritual. He admired Delacroix's Stormy Christ for its use of lemon yellow halo light, a colour choice that symbolised peace in chaos. And he borrowed that symbolism in his own way, embedding it into paintings like Quay with Sand Barges, transforming Arles into a biblical drama. Everywhere in his letters, you feel his longing to make art that speaks to anyone with eyes, to reach the everyday person and give them something sacred, even if they didn't know the language of religion or philosophy. He wanted to sow meaning the way a farmer sows seeds, knowing not every seed would take root, but hoping some would. So Van Gogh wasn't a symbolist. He was something more. He didn't need the label. His mission was older, deeper, and more personal. He used colour, shape, and suffering to reach for the eternal. He wasn't just making art, he was building his own gospel. And if we stop to look, really look, we might just find the meaning he left behind. Not in some textbook definition or museum plaque, but in the way a wheat field bends under a golden sky, in the loneliness of a cafe at midnight, in the way stars seem to swirl just a little louder when you've got something heavy on your chest. That's where Van Gogh lives now. Not as a symbolist, not as a madman, but as a man who bled meaning into the canvas because words weren't enough. And maybe that's the real tragedy, and the real brilliance. Vincent didn't just paint what he saw, he painted what he felt the world was hiding, and that's what makes him timeless. You don't need to understand art history to feel Van Gogh, you just need a little silence, a little time, and a willingness to see beyond the brushstrokes. That's where he'll meet you. And speaking of meeting, let's dear viewer catch up again sometime soon. We enjoyed making this video, and if you enjoyed watching it, tap that like button, hit that subscribe button hard, and we'll see you for another of Art's Wonders.